All right, kids, one thing you're gonna notice that's inside of our house is our library, where we have a tremendous amount of books. And a small fraction of those books are fiction books, but a majority of those books, by far and large, are what's known as self-help books. A lot of those relate to business lessons and skills. As an example of that, there's a lot of books on sales, marketing, psychology, sociology. Tremendous amount of information, simply put, inside of all these books that are inside of our house at the library. Now, I'm going to tell you why books are so important and why a lot of people discount them nowadays, especially in this world of AI. So let me tell you kids something very important to understand. Most people in my day and age, right now, while I sit here and film this, they've started to outsource their critical thinking and their thinking in general to AI models. They'll go into different tools and they'll ask it critical questions instead of being able to be knowledgeable enough to decipher what is best for them to do. Most people aren't asking AI for second opinions. They're asking AI for the opinion that they're going to inherit as their own. Now, it's not in any way, shape, or form bad to use AI tools to help you with research, to help you know more, to help you learn more faster, to even help you through exercising the information that you've been exposed to help retain that information. But here's what I found time and time again. If I don't know what questions to ask AI, I don't get a lot of benefit out of using AI. Comparatively, if I know what to ask, I can unlock a completely different answer compared to somebody else. I know what I know, and I don't know what I don't know. And in some instances, I know what I don't know. Books help me uncover a wider network of information, and eventually those dots start to connect in ways that expand my intelligence well beyond where it was before I opened up that book. It's a lot of different things I've learned through books over the years that I've never been exposed to anywhere else. Not in conversation, surely not through AI models. This is the thing that people don't understand seemingly with AI, is it doesn't just give you answers. Quality of questions that you ask or the quality of prompts that you give AI is what determines the quality of your answers. So anyway, books are incredibly insightful. I'm gonna give you a few examples of my favorites. There's a particular book called The Owner's Manual for the Brain. It's about this thick. It's got a light blue binder on it, and it's a very simple, very well-written book. It teaches you different parts about what the brain can do, how that looks in practice, and some examples about how you can use the information immediately. That's how the entire book is written. And it's all categorically organized in different chapters and sections on different parts of your brain that you specifically want to learn about and exploit. There's another great book. It's by one of my favorite authors. His name's Richard Bandler. And Richard wrote this book called Using Your Brain for a Change. This book changed my life. It's the simplest concept he introduced. Richard writes books for what's known as a psychotherapist, which are people who sit down and act as a therapist for folks, but usually people with more severe issues. These psychotherapists, if they're trained exceptionally well, like Richard, they can instantly make change in people in a very short period of time compared to long-term therapy in general. Now, here's the cool part about this book. Somebody was in the audience and Richard had talked to that person and said, think of a bad memory, something that traumatized you. And the person sat there and thought about it. And the first question that he asked was something that most people don't ever have self-awareness of. Richard asked the simple question, what specifically did you think about when you brought the memory forward? The person said, well, what do you mean? And he goes, was it a picture? Was it a movie? Was it a sound? Like, what was it? The person sits there and thinks and goes, yeah, it's like a short movie. Richard asks, is it full screen? Does it occupy the entire space in your mind? Does it feel full or does it feel small? And the person said, no, it feels close to full screen. And then Richard asked, is it in color? The person says, yes. Richard then asked this person, does it have sound at all? And the person sat there and goes, I can turn the sound on and off. I don't think it comes with sound, but if I try to think of the sounds, then yes, there's sounds too. And he goes, perfect, make the sound louder. Act like there's a knob in your head, like you're turning up the radio in a car. Try to make it louder. And the book describes that as this person sat there and kind of reached their hand in front of themselves with their eyes closed going like this, that their face kind of, shifted to a more negative state. Keep in mind, this was a bad memory this person was thinking of. Richard asked, did the feelings intensify? The person doing this exercise with him says, yeah, it got worse. The feeling got worse. And he goes, great, make it quieter, mute it. You said it doesn't come with sound, turn the sound off, mute it. The person muted it and he goes, did the emotions subdue? Did it reduce? The person goes, yes. He goes, perfect. Now take the image from full screen in your head, make it smaller. Try to see how small you can make it. Try to take it like you're dragging a computer window and try to make it as small as you can. Try to act like you're holding it like this and have to put a magnifying glass to it to see it. But don't put the magnifying glass, just make it so small. And he asks again, he goes, were you able to do that? And the person says, yeah. Did the feelings intensify or did they reduce? No, the feelings reduced, Richard. Perfect. Now, I want you to take the memory. The sound should be off. It should be really small, and I want you to make it black and white now. Try to make it a little bigger so you can confirm that it's black and white, and then shrink it down again. The person said, yeah, I was able to do that. And he said, perfect. Did the feelings intensify or reduce more? And he said, yeah, it reduced more. I actually don't feel anything now when I think of the memory. He goes, perfect. Can you create a permanent file in your mind and that's how you remember that memory now? Or try to make it permanent. Try to save it. And the person's like, well, I don't know if I have a mechanism for that. And he goes, perfect. Another great example. Add the mechanism to your thinking that you now have the ability to permanently save files like that, just like a computer, just like a device. Treat your brain like the same. Give yourself the power. Try to equip it. What do you seemingly need to do to equip it? And the person goes, I thought about pressing Command S like I would on a computer to save something. He's like, I feel like it's saved now. Richard goes, perfect, on to the next person. And he sits there in this book, again, called Using Your Brain for a Change, and he just describes like the simplest things about like manipulating a visual image, a memory, a movie with sound on or sound off, or black and white versus color versus big versus small. He then got a little more advanced inside of the book and he started talking about how you can place your current self into a memory to comfort an older version of yourself that may have been harmed in some way. And this is a seemingly very advanced psychological tactic, but at the end of the day, I discovered this in a very simple book by Richard Bandler. It's a great book. There's many different Richard Bandler books that I absolutely love, and I'd encourage you kids to read all of them. They're all available in our library, and they're older books, but they're incredibly powerful. There's another great book, a lot of what inspired me to sit down and do videos like this for you, called The Ultimate Gift. And inside of that book, specifically The Ultimate Gift, it describes a man who had passed away. He was a rich man and he had a son. And instead of just allowing the son to inherit his money, the son wasn't really prepared yet. The son needed some training and needed some mindset shifts to really be responsible with the money. The father had some specific lessons that he wanted to make sure that he could hand down to the kid in order. And he had a trustee and a lawyer and, one of his business colleagues that he had, had grown into friends as time passed, were helping to make sure that the kid inherited these lessons as true. The kid had to be exposed to the lesson, and then the kid had to implement the lesson in order to get to the point where he got the inheritance. It's an incredible book, and it showed this incredible life story of this young man who was able to eventually get the inheritance, not to spoil the book. But it's an awesome read, all the way over to fiction books. There's this particular series that's very popular a few years ago. It was called The Hunger Games, and it was turned into movies. Well, more than 20 years ago, I think this book was already written. The Hunger Games in writing, if you actually read the 3-part series to The Hunger Games, was one of the best fiction books I'd ever read. It just works your imagination, kind of like working out muscles in the gym. Fiction books seemingly do the same thing to work out your imagination and your creativity. If you're a visual person like myself, as an example, as I sit there and I read these books, it's almost as though I don't even feel like I'm sitting there reading words on a page. It's like my mind takes over and just creates this incredible set of visuals that match what I'm sitting there reading through text. And it works my imagination, my creativity. I can't sit here and name every single book I've read and how profound the impact has been on my life, but I'll tell you time and time again, it's an unbelievable amount of books that present ideas in extreme depth, way more depth than what I've ever gotten out of any other specific mechanism for learning. It's the deepest form of understanding that I think I've been exposed to. And as I sit here in my day and age and I watch more and more people outsource their thinking and their critical thinking to, in my case, AI models at this day and age, it's sad to see, because of how valuable of a person you can become based on your ability to load yourself up with more knowledge and more information than you have in your head right now. Remember this quote. This is very important, kids. You don't know what you don't know, and you can't do anything with what you don't know. You can't pursue opportunities. You can't even see opportunities when you don't have the information to see them in the first place. It's like reading a book is acquiring a tool that allows you to equip yourself with something that allows you to see the exact world that you sit and see every day completely differently from equipping yourself with new added perspectives from all these authors who have spent a tremendous amount of time and effort to document themselves and their specific thoughts on that topic that you're reading about in extreme depth. There's just nothing like it. When I say you know what you know, that means that you've loaded yourself up with information that you are aware of and that you can therefore use in your thinking. When you don't have the information in your head to think with, you are deficient. You are operating with a deficiency. You're operating with the lack of information that could have otherwise been loaded into your head if you would have taken the time to consume it, and it would have put you into a better spot. There's been plenty of times where I've been in some tough situations, both personal and in business, even spiritually, where I wouldn't have otherwise known what to do if I didn't have the information in my head from a specific author that thankfully had exposed it to me. And thankfully for me, I'd spent the time to expose myself to that information, potentially well before I ever needed it. Books are incredible. When you don't know something, you can simply pursue the knowledge. and it unlocks a completely different way to think about the same thing you're struggling with now. Books contain the secrets of life. Books contain the ultimate wisdom. Books are one of the greatest forms of how human beings pass down information from one generation to the next. And it's a shame more people don't read more books. It's a shame most of us don't make the time to read more books. I'd encourage you all build a routine into your schedules, especially since you have such great books that I've accumulated over my lifetime that have helped me a tremendous amount. And I look forward to seeing what you kids add to the library as time continues to pass. May we continue to share information with one another. May we continue to thrive as a family. May we also continue to know more of the things that we don't know now, so we can continue to improve our lives well beyond where we've been able to improve it to up to this point. Because right now we've only been able to improve it to the point based on using what we know. There's a tremendous amount of things that we don't know that can make our lives even better than what they are now. I will say this, yes, books are incredible, but if you read the wrong books, they'll put the wrong ideas in your head. There's an unfortunate plague inside of college institutions during my day and age right now, where a lot of people, they go to school and they come back a completely different person, but in a negative way, where unfortunately the education and the books that they've read and been exposed to, they warp the person in a negative way that doesn't end up benefiting them in real life. You gotta be careful with what you expose yourself to. And that's where critical thinking comes in. As you go through the process of learning, you have to also know what strategically makes sense for you to know and therefore continue to consume and dive in deeper about, versus what wouldn't make any sense for you to know. Certain things we need to expose ourselves to that we're not really gonna use in our thinking to shape our beliefs and our worldview, but we need to understand them anyway to be able to combat them and play the offense on the other side of that belief system. Critical thinking is the ability to argue both sides and to be able to determine which specific side you want to play on and which specific beliefs, which specific sets of knowledge and awareness you want to apply into a given situation to be able to make a critical decision, a high impact decision, something that's really going to impact your life or your business or your relationships or something meaningful in your life. To be able to critically think, you need to expose yourself to the good and the bad. But you want to be mindful of when you expose yourself to the bad. That way you don't allow it to manipulate you in a negative way. Self-awareness is critical when you read, because there's a lot of authors that have incredible books that are some of the best information I've ever been exposed to. But those same authors, they might have 10% of the stuff that they write into the book that is worthless, or the most valuable thing. And 90% of it could be worthless, 90% of it could be great, and 10% could be terrible. You have to be able to strategically consider what you want to inherit for you in your worldview. What information do you need to support and build your character out more than you are today? What specific information is most beneficial to you now? What information do you expose yourself to that might seem confusing to even consume because it might not seem aligned to who you are? Those are some of the best pieces of advice in books to read through. I'll give you an example of this. If you pictured a whole bunch of dots and all these dots represented all the awareness that you currently have now, if you continued to expose yourself to more and more and more and more and more dots in that same category of knowledge, you become more and more aware of information within that contained area of knowledge. I had a mentor one time who told me to read a book that seemed like a random data point, just one single dot, way outside of who I was at the time and what type of information I thought I wanted to pursue to reinforce who I thought I was, and what type of information I thought would benefit me most based on who I thought I was. And this mentor told me, read this book that has one dot way over here. And seemingly as time passed, there were other occasional dots that would show up that would bridge to that one dot that was way over there. And ultimately what that did is it expanded my character beyond just this into a much more well-rounded, very diversified, and very educated person, instead of just a single one-sided person instead. Books got me there. I've read literally hundreds and hundreds of books in my lifetime, thoroughly. I want to teach you one last thing before we go, how to read the books. So sometimes people think books can be daunting because they try to read them every single word front to back. What most authors do is they have an entire point they're trying to make, a large point inside of you reading the book. And usually the chapters in that book are different perspectives that they provide to you to help you understand the main point that they're trying to make in the entire book itself. Each chapter, when I say it provides a different perspective on that one main thing, once you feel like you've got the one main thing, you can move on. Because remember, the whole point of a book is to be able to acquire the main thing from the book and some sub-points that help support that main thing and then move on. There's no need to inefficiently read. Sometimes it's that same way in each chapter. So as an example, let's say that there's a particular chapter that's really appealing to you and every single word matters a lot to you and you're hooked on it. And let's say the second chapter, you understand the author's point within 2 pages. And the rest of that chapter is just a bunch of different stories and angles to try to prove the point of that chapter. Once you understand the point, move on for your own efficiency. Don't feel like you have to read everything literally front to back. That's very intimidating. Some books are great to use for very specific lessons at a given time, and you only need one specific thing from them. Other books are so well-rounded that you'll want to read the entire thing from front to back. And I promise you, you'll know when you pick it up and start reading. Make that decision in real time, and don't ever beat yourself up for not reading a book in its entirety. A lot of them aren't meant to be read that way from what I've experienced myself. Also, don't ever be afraid to buy another book, even if you're in the middle of reading a book currently. You can never accumulate too much physical knowledge. You'll always have something else to learn and look forward to on the other side of that current one that you're reading now. Don't ever let losers and people who don't consume information to convince you that reading books is something that's not worth your time and effort. It is one of the highest ROI actions that you can take in your life. It'll benefit you in literally every area, spiritually, personally, in your business, all forms of self-benefit from exposing yourself to the knowledge in great books. Just don't read mediocre books. Those ones will burn you out and make you think that reading isn't worth it. Set a book aside that you don't like and pick up the ones that you love and read them front to back. Strategically work through the ones that have some things that are great and other things that you could actively ignore. I look forward, like I said at the middle part of this video, to sharing some of the best books that I've ever read. And I look forward to seeing what you kids come up with as well. All right, love you guys. Talk soon.